Being the oldest means you grow up fast. You learn to fight battles no one asked you to. And when you finally leave home, the weight doesn't stay behind. It follows you. Today I'm sharing what it's really like to carry that role, to miss out on their growing up, and still lose sleep wondering if they're okay. At the early age of 6 is the moment I realized that I have to be there for my siblings, that I have to step up, be their shield, be their rock, be whatever they need. You see, when I was 6 years old, I was in my room. It was late at night, and I heard commotion outside my door. My mom and my father, they were fighting, bickering, whatever it was. I can't tell you what happened or what they were fighting about, to be honest. But I was 6. I woke up to them arguing, and I just laid in my bed, had the covers real close to my chest, hoping it'd be over soon, hoping the loud noises and the yelling and the screaming, whatever was crashing in the living room, would just be over, and hoping my siblings weren't awake and hearing all of it. And they were little. My youngest sister was just barely born, probably about 8 or 9 months old. I wasn't so lucky that night. They actually came into my room, and I don't know why. I don't know what compelled them to come into my room, turn the lights on, and stay fighting in there. But I realized my mom was holding my little sister Breely, the 8-month-old. I just remember looking at them. It's like all the noise had quieted down, and me and Breely's eyes locked. And in that moment, I knew that she was not safe, that I had to go get her. But I didn't know how to do that. I wasn't sure how I was going to be able to take my little sister from my mom as she's fighting with our father. I was still laying in the bed. They're fighting. I genuinely believe my mom went in there to maybe de-escalate things. Maybe my father will see us and he'll calm down. But that wasn't the case. My father slapped my mom across the face. And the minute I heard that smack, I threw the covers off of me. I jumped out of bed and I went up to my mom and I grabbed my sister. Yes, I was scared for my mom, but in that moment, I knew who I needed to take care of, who I needed to make sure was safe, and that was Breely. So I grabbed her out of my mom's arm. I ran down the hall to where my sisters shared a room, and I ran into their room. And my aunt and her friend were in there, and they were hiding away in the room. And I just remember thinking, why aren't you helping me? I'm 6, and I'm holding an 8-month-old baby, and she's heavy. I handed my auntie Breely, and instead of going into the room where I was safe, I left and went back to my room because my parents were still fighting in there. Walking back down that hallway to check on my mom felt like the hallway got longer. Like in the movies, where things get stretched out and the door's there and it's like a scary door, right? An ominous door. That's what it felt like. And as each step I get closer, it's like the sounds were just getting louder. The fighting was getting louder. It was getting more aggressive. But I knew I needed to get my mom out of there. So I finally grabbed the door handle and I opened it. They had closed the door after I'd left. And I grabbed my mom's arm and I said, "Come on, let's go." And I'm like crying, And I'm like pulling on her. "Please, mom, let's leave, let's go." And she finally follows me out and get her to safety, is how I like to say it. Because after I grabbed her, my father stopped yelling and he stopped screaming, and so did my mom. And that's about as much as I remember from that night. In that moment, I wasn't asked to be the shield or the rock, but I stepped into it. And just for a brief moment, I wished my aunt would have been there for me and shielded me. But then I decided no one's going to do it better than me. No one's going to protect them better than me. So I chose it, and I carry that cross proudly. Growing up, I didn't have a terrible childhood. I'll be very clear about that. I had a good one. I had a roof over my head. I was fed. They're just things that happen at home that we as people don't like to talk about. We want to keep it buried and keep it between the family, right? With that said, I'm about to share something that's vulnerable to me and my family. Shortly after that occasion happened, with my mom and my father. They got a divorce and we moved back to the town that my mom grew up in. She eventually got remarried to my stepfather, who was a part of my life till I graduated high school. And he's not a bad man, he's a good guy, but my mom and him just weren't a great match. They would fight a lot, especially when they started drinking more. When the drinking got worse, my stepfather would get home without my mom. And that always made me really angry because that's your wife. Why are you leaving her? And there would be times that I would have to get in the car as a sophomore in high school, barely got my driver's license, right? And I'd have to go get her from the bars. But I couldn't leave without making sure my siblings were safe because every time my stepfather came home, he always wanted to take my two little brothers with him. You see, my mom had me and my two little sisters with my father, and then she had two boys with my stepfather. And he would just get home and he'd be so angry and he'd be drunk and he'd want to grab my brothers and take them with him and drive away. Well, I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't just stand by and be like, yeah, it's fine. No, those are my brothers, and I'm going to protect them against anybody and anything that I can. I would physically have to stand in front of their doorway and block him from taking them. And I'd have to make sure he went to his bedroom and pass out before I could leave and go get my mom. There was one night that he came home and he was very adamant about taking them with him. And I was very scared. I didn't know where my mom was. She wasn't answering her phone. And I got 4 other kids relying on me to protect them. And I'm just a kid myself. But I didn't get to be a kid at that time. I had to step up. I had to make sure that they were safe and that nobody would hurt them. And so when he was trying to take them, I called the police. This was the one and only time I ever asked for backup. Asked for somebody else to help shield me and my siblings. They took him into custody, I don't know where they took him, to be honest with y'all. But all I knew was my siblings were safe. When I left for college, I had this enormous guilt and excitement at the same time because I knew I was leaving my siblings to go pursue something that I was passionate about. And a part of me felt selfish because I felt relieved that I wasn't going to have to be there anymore. And not in a bad way, just I had been carrying it for so long. Being the shield, being the one that was mediating adult conversations, making sure my siblings stayed in their room so they didn't have to see their mom and dad fight. And I knew I was getting out. But then I felt guilty because I was leaving them in it. I had to go though. I couldn't just stay there. I need to pursue my life and still set a good example for my siblings. And so obviously I went, and there was just one call that I got from my brother. He's probably about 10 or 11 at the time. And he's with my other little brother. And they got left home alone. And they were scared. He was crying. And I wasn't there to get him, to save him, to protect him. I was 4 hours away. I'm trying to make phone calls to everybody I know to go get them. I felt so much shame and guilt that I wasn't there. That was my first realization that I'm no longer there, that they're on their own now. That was a punch to the gut, to be honest. Realizing that they had to figure it out on their own, that they had to witness things that I wish they didn't have to. But at the same time, they had to learn how to navigate that world because it's what they're growing up in. And shielding them all the time is also a disservice to them. And I've realized that as time has gone on. My siblings struggle with confrontation. The second oldest, Kylan, she doesn't struggle as much, but my other siblings do. They don't know how to handle situations. They don't understand how to stand up for themselves because I always did it. So if you're that sibling that normally stands up for your siblings or for your parent, you don't even have to be the oldest. Sometimes that role gets passed on to somebody else in the family. Do not always fight their battles. I know you want to, I know it's instinct, but they also have to learn how to fight those battles so that when you leave and go and live your life, they know how to handle it. That was a big one for me in college, realizing that I had done them a great disservice by not allowing them to fight their battles. Because now they're calling me, asking me what they should do, which they should. But they genuinely when it's in the heat of the moment, they get stuck. And they're wondering, where's my big sister? Where's my sister that's always here? My brother that always takes care of this? Once you allow them to fight their own battles and not shielding them from absolutely everything you can, you will feel this sense of pride when they figure it out. My sister Kylan had a rough senior year, and there was a lot going on in her life during that time, and I was away in college, not there to help her and be there physically for her. The feeling I got when I watched her walk the stage when she graduated, because she made it. She did it on her own, she figured it out, and she got herself across that stage. It's probably one of the proudest moments I've ever felt for her. Thinking back on it, before I left for college, I wish I would have left them the tools to navigate that world that they were living in, because I had them all. I know how to de-escalate situations, how to manage people and look at them like you need to calm down, or know what options I have to de-escalate, right? No, they didn't. They were just there watching me. Being the rock, you can get caught up so deeply into what they need and not what you need. It's cost me sleepless nights and a loss of peace, because constantly worrying about people and what they're doing in their lives and how they're navigating it, right? The people you love, it can be very stressful because they're making choices or going through things that you don't agree with. And if you take that on, you are taking on their emotions, and it's not benefiting anybody, because then you're not clear-headed, you're not getting sleep, you're not able to help them in the way they need. I will say this though, being the rock, it teaches you to be resilient, and a form of loyalty that a lot of people don't know about, and something you can't explain. And it also creates that bond that distance can't break. You are not always responsible for fighting your siblings' battles. You are allowed to live your life, and as they're going through life, of course they can seek you out for guidance, but you do not have to drop everything for them. Trust them. Trust that they can figure it out on their own, and see how you feel when they do. Being the rock isn't about never cracking. It's about showing up even when it's hard. If this hit you, follow No Blueprint on YouTube, Spotify, and on TikTok. The links will be posted in the description. The next episode releases Sunday, September 21st at 6 p.m., where I'm sharing my sister Kylan's story, the one who grew up clashing with our mom, and what it's like watching her find her place. Until then, remember, no pressure, no plan, just life in real time. Peace.